The Vorkan Empire had conquered 17 star systems in 12 years. They moved from planet to planet like a dark wave, crushing everything in their path. Their armies were huge. Their ships were fast. Their weapons could turn cities to ash in seconds. But their most feared force was not their fleet or their bombs. It was the Death Squads. The Death Squads were small teams of elite warriors. Each team had only 6 or 7 soldiers, but these soldiers were not normal. They were bred for war. They were trained from birth to kill. They felt no fear. They felt no pity. They felt nothing at all except the need to complete their mission. Commander Crix led the best death squad in the entire empire. His unit was called the Fang Division. In 15 years of service, Crix had never failed a mission. He had killed thousands. He had broken rebellions on 6 different worlds. When the Vorkan High Command wanted something dead, they sent Crix. Now, Crix stood on the bridge of his dropship as it fell through the blue sky of a new world. The planet below was called Earth. The Vorkan had been watching it for some time. The humans who lived there were weak. They had no shields. They had no plasma weapons. They had primitive machines that burned dead plants for energy. They would be easy to conquer. But the High Command was careful. They always sent death squads first to remove any possible threats before the main invasion. The scanners had detected strange energy readings at several locations on the planet. These readings might be weapons. They might be shields. They had to be checked. Crix looked at the data on his screen. His target was in a region called Ohio. The energy reading was weak but unusual. It came from a small brick building surrounded by green grass and metal structures. The building held approximately 40 human life signs, 40 targets, 6 warriors. Crix almost felt insulted. This was too easy. The dropship broke through the clouds. The human sky was very blue. Crix had seen many skies on many worlds, but he did not care about beauty. He cared about efficiency. He cared about death. His warriors stood behind him in the cargo bay. Each one was 7 feet tall. Each one wore black armor that could stop bullets. Each one carried a plasma rifle that could burn through steel. They were silent. They were ready. The dropship landed hard. It crashed through a metal fence and tore up the green grass. Crix heard alarms from inside the building. Good. Let them panic. Panic made targets easier to kill. He hit the release button. The cargo door dropped open. Bright sunlight flooded the bay. Crix stepped out onto the grass. His boots crushed small yellow flowers. He looked at the building. It was very small. The walls were red brick. The windows were large and filled with colorful paper shapes. Strange symbols decorated the entrance. His translator scanned the symbols and provided meaning. Jefferson Elementary School. Crix did not know what this meant. He did not care. A building was a building. A target was a target. He raised his hand and gave the signal. His 6 warriors spread out behind him. They moved fast and quiet, like shadows with guns. Within seconds, they had surrounded the main entrance. Crix walked up to the door. It was made of glass and metal. Through the glass, he could see a long hallway with bright lights and more colorful papers on the walls. He could hear sounds from deep inside. Strange sounds, high-pitched voices, laughter. He did not understand laughter. The Vorkan had removed that weakness from their species long ago. Crix kicked the door. It exploded inward. Glass flew everywhere. He stepped through the frame and walked down the hallway. His warriors followed. The sounds grew louder. They came from a large room at the end of the hall. Crix could smell something strange. Food. Cooked food. It was not unpleasant. He reached the door to the large room. It was marked with more symbols. Cafeteria. His translator told him this was a place where humans consumed nutrients. Perfect. They would all be in one place. This would be quick. Crix hit the door with his shoulder. It flew open and crashed against the wall. He stepped inside with his plasma rifle raised. His warriors poured in behind him. They spread out along the walls. They aimed their weapons at the targets. Crix looked at the room. It was filled with small tables and small chairs. The walls were covered with bright pictures. Sunlight came through large windows, and sitting at the tables were the targets. Crix stopped. They were small. Very small. They were human, yes, but they were tiny versions of humans. Their heads seemed too big for their bodies. Their eyes were very large. They held food in their small hands. Children. These were human children. Crix had killed children before. On Vorn 3, he had eliminated an entire school of young rebels. On Kethis Prime, he had burned a nursery that housed future soldiers. Children were just small enemies. They would grow into big enemies. It was logical to kill them early. But something was different here. The children did not scream. The children did not run. The children did not cry or beg or hide under tables. They just looked at him. 40 small faces turned toward the door. 40 pairs of eyes stared at the 7 giant aliens in black armor. The room went quiet. For 3 long seconds, nobody moved. Then a small girl with red hair and dots on her face raised her hand. Crix had seen many things in his years of war. He had seen soldiers charge impossible odds. He had seen prisoners spit at their executioners. He had seen courage and madness and desperation in 1,000 forms, but he had never seen a child raise her hand politely at a death squad. The girl spoke. Her voice was high but steady. "Are you here for lunch? Do you want some juice boxes?" Crix did not answer. He could not answer. His brain was trying to process what was happening and failing. The girl waited. When no answer came, she shrugged and turned to the boy next to her. "Maybe they do not speak English," she said. "Or maybe they are shy." The boy nodded seriously. He had dark skin and short hair. He picked up something from his table and walked toward Crix. He walked right past the plasma rifles. He walked right up to the 7-foot alien commander. He held out his hand. In it was half a sandwich. "My mom packed too much," the boy said. "You can have some. It is peanut butter. Do you like peanut butter?" Crix looked down at the sandwich. He looked at the boy. He looked at his warriors. His warriors looked back at him. For the first time in 15 years of perfect service, Commander Crix had absolutely no idea what to do. The invasion of Earth had just gotten very complicated. The boy stood there with his sandwich held out. He did not move. He did not seem afraid. He just waited, like offering food to alien invaders was a normal thing to do on a Tuesday. Crix stared at the sandwich. It was 2 pieces of soft bread with brown paste between them. The bread was slightly crushed. There were small teeth marks on one corner where the boy had already taken a bite. This was not how invasions worked. This was not how anything worked. Crix had studied human military tactics. He had memorized their weapon systems. He had learned about their governments and their armies and their defense networks. Nobody had mentioned anything about sandwiches. One of his warriors, a soldier named Threll, spoke through the private communication channel in their helmets. "Commander, what are our orders? Do we eliminate the targets?" Crix did not answer immediately. He was still looking at the boy. The boy was maybe 8 years old. He had big brown eyes and a gap where one of his front teeth should be. He was wearing a blue shirt with a picture of some kind of animal on it. "Commander," Threll said again. Crix finally spoke. His voice came out through his helmet speakers, deep and harsh. "Where is the energy source? We detected unusual readings from this building." The boy tilted his head. "Energy source? Like electricity?" "Yes, an unusual power signature." The boy turned and looked at the room. His eyes moved across the tables and walls. Then he pointed toward the back corner. "Maybe you mean Mrs. Patterson's heater. It makes weird noises sometimes." Crix followed the boy's finger. In the corner of the room stood an adult human female. She was older than the children, with gray hair and glasses on her face. She was standing next to a small metal box that hummed with electricity. The adult female did not scream or run either. She looked at the aliens, looked at the metal box, and calmly bent down to pull a cord from the wall. The humming stopped. "Sorry about that," she said. "The heating in this building is terrible. I have to bring my own space heater." She smiled at Crix. "I am Linda Patterson. I teach 3rd grade. Do any of you have food allergies? We have extra lunch if you are hungry." Crix felt something he had not felt in many years. He felt confused. This was supposed to be a military target. The scanners had detected an energy signature. The energy signature had come from a broken heating device used by an elderly female teacher. He had brought a death squad to a school cafeteria. The children had gone back to eating. Some of them watched the aliens with curiosity, but none of them seemed worried. They ate their sandwiches and drank from small boxes with straws and talked to each other in quiet voices. A girl with yellow hair raised her hand. "Excuse me, Mr. Alien? Why do you have so many eyes?" Crix had 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern on his face. All Vorkan had 4 eyes. He had never thought about it before. "It is how my species evolved," he said. "Cool," the girl said. "Can you see in all directions at once?" "Yes." "That would be good for hide and seek. You would never lose." Crix did not know what hide and seek was. His translator provided a definition: a children's game involving concealment and discovery. He could not understand why this information was relevant. Another child spoke up. This one was a boy with red hair and glasses. "Does your armor get hot? It looks heavy." "The armor has climate control," Crix said. He was not sure why he was answering these questions. His mission was to eliminate threats, not discuss his equipment with small humans. "That is smart," the boy said. "My dad wears a suit to work and he says it gets really hot in summer." A small girl at the nearest table stood up on her chair to get a better look at the aliens. She had black hair and 2 long braids. Her eyes were wide with wonder, not fear. "You are very tall," she said. "How tall are you?" 7 feet and 4 inches in your measurement system," Crix said. "Wow, my dad is only 6 feet. You are taller than my dad." She paused. "Are you tired? You look tired." Crix had not slept in 40 hours. His species could function for long periods without rest. But the girl was correct. He was tired. "I am functional," he said. "My mom says that when she is tired too," the girl said. "But she is not really functional. She is just pretending." The girl climbed down from her chair and walked toward Threll, who was standing near the wall with his weapon ready. She stopped in front of him and looked up at his armored face. "You look tired too," she said. Then she reached up and patted his hand. "It is okay. Lunch is almost over. Then we have rest time. You can rest too if you want." Threll did not move. He stood frozen like a statue. His plasma rifle was pointed at the ceiling. His finger was near the trigger. But he did not fire. He did not speak. He just stood there while a 7-year-old girl patted his hand. Threll had killed over 900 beings across 4 different star systems. He had burned cities. He had executed prisoners. He had done terrible things without hesitation or regret. But no one had ever patted his hand before. No one had ever told him it was okay to rest. No one had ever shown him kindness. He did not know what to do with kindness. It was like a weapon he had never seen before. He had no defense against it. Mrs. Patterson walked toward Crix. She moved slowly and calmly, like she approached alien warriors every day. "Listen," she said. "I do not know why you are here or what you want. But these are children. They are 8 years old. Whatever is happening between your people and our people, it has nothing to do with them." She paused. "So either shoot us or sit down and have some lunch. Standing around with guns is scaring nobody and accomplishing nothing." Crix looked at the teacher. She was small and soft and completely defenseless. He could kill her with one hand. He could kill everyone in this room in less than 30 seconds. But she was not afraid of him. None of them were afraid of him. And for some reason, that made him feel strange. The boy with the sandwich was still standing there. He had not moved the whole time. His arm must be tired from holding out the food, but he kept holding it anyway. "Please," the boy said. "My mom makes really good sandwiches, and you came all the way from space. You must be hungry." Crix looked at the sandwich. He looked at the boy. He looked at his warriors. His warriors looked back at him. None of them knew what to do. They were trained for every kind of combat. They were ready for any weapon or trap or ambush. But they were not ready for this. They were not ready for peanut butter sandwiches and juice boxes and children who thought aliens might be shy. Crix made a decision. It was not a military decision. It was not a logical decision. But he made it anyway. "We will stay," he said, briefly, "to gather intelligence. The boy smiled. It was a big smile that showed the gap in his teeth. "Great," he said. "My name is Danny. What is your name?" "I am Commander Crix of the Fang Division." "That is a cool name," Danny said. "Do you want to sit at my table? I can introduce you to my friends." Crix, conqueror of worlds and leader of the most feared death squad in the Vorkan Empire, followed an 8-year-old boy to a table covered in sandwich crumbs and juice stains. The invasion of Earth was getting more complicated by the minute. 20 minutes passed. Crix sat at a small table that was made for children. His knees were pressed against the underside. His armor scraped against the tiny plastic chair. He felt ridiculous, but he did not move. Around him, his warriors had spread through the cafeteria. They still held their weapons. They still watched for threats. But the children had surrounded them like water flowing around rocks. Danny sat across from Crix, explaining the rules of something called Foursquare. Crix did not understand the game and did not care about it. But he listened anyway. He told himself he was gathering intelligence about human culture. He told himself this was part of the mission. But really, he just did not know how to make the boy stop talking. At another table, a warrior named Grox was being shown pictures drawn on paper. A small girl with curly brown hair was explaining each picture in great detail. This one was a dog. This one was her house. This one was her family. The girl pointed at each figure and named them: Mom, Dad, Brother, Grandma. Grox had never seen pictures made by a child before. On Vorkan worlds, children were taken at birth and raised in training facilities. There were no families. There were no drawings. There were only lessons and tests and punishments for failure. The girl asked Grox if he had a family. Grox did not know how to answer. He had never had a family. He had been grown in a tank and programmed for war. The girl patted his arm. "That is okay," she said. "You can be part of my family. I always wanted a big brother." Grox felt something twist in his chest. He did not have a word for the feeling. It was uncomfortable but not painful. It was strange but not bad. Near the windows, Threll was still standing with the girl who had patted his hand. Her name was Sophie. She had not left his side since they met. She asked him questions about everything. What did he eat? Where did he sleep? Did he have friends? Did he ever feel lonely? Threll answered each question as briefly as possible. Yes. The ship. No. He did not know. Sophie told him that everyone felt lonely sometimes. She said that when she felt lonely, she hugged her stuffed rabbit and felt better. She asked if Threll had a stuffed rabbit. He did not. Sophie said she would make him one. She knew how to sew because her grandmother taught her. She would make him a rabbit, and then he would never have to feel lonely again. Threll did not know what to say, so he said thank you. It was the first time he had ever thanked anyone for anything. Crix watched all of this happening. He watched his death squad, the finest warriors in the Empire, being slowly dismantled by children with crayons and juice boxes. He needed to regain control. He needed to remind everyone, including himself, that they were here on a mission. They were soldiers. They were conquerors. They did not make friends with the enemy. Crix stood up from the tiny chair. It was difficult because his armor had gotten stuck on the seat. "Enough," he said loudly. "We are leaving. Warriors, form up at the entrance." Nobody moved. His warriors looked at him, but they did not obey. Grox was still looking at the pictures. Threll was listening to Sophie describe her stuffed rabbit collection. Another warrior named Vex had somehow ended up with a small boy on his shoulders, and the boy was trying to touch the ceiling. Mrs. Patterson walked toward Crix. She had a calm expression on her face, but her eyes were hard. "They are having fun," she said. When was the last time any of them had fun? Crix did not answer. He did not know if his warriors had ever had fun. Fun was not part of the Vorkon training program. "I gave an order," Crix said. "Yes, you did," Mrs. Patterson replied, "and they ignored it. That must be new for you." It was new. Crix had commanded death squads for 15 years. No one had ever ignored his orders. The punishment for disobedience was death, but he could not kill his own warriors. And he could not kill these children, and he could not explain why. A boy walked toward him. This boy was big for his age, taller than the others, with light brown hair and serious eyes. He stopped in front of Crix and looked up at him. "My name is Ethan," the boy said. "I am the class conflict mediator. That means I help when people have problems." "I do not have a problem," Crix said. "Yes, you do," Ethan said. "You want to leave, but your friends want to stay. That is a conflict." "They are not my friends. They are my soldiers." "Same thing," Ethan said. "My dad says your coworkers are your second family." Crix did not have a first family. He did not say this out loud. "What we do," Ethan continued, "is talk about our feelings. Then we find a solution that works for everyone. Would you like to talk about your feelings?" "I do not have feelings," Crix said. "Everyone has feelings," Ethan said. "Even my dog has feelings. He gets sad when I go to school. He gets happy when I come home. You probably have feelings too. You just have not noticed them." Crix felt something flicker in his chest. It was similar to what Grox had felt earlier. It was uncomfortable and strange and had no name. "I need to complete my mission," Crix said. "The invasion of your planet depends on it." "What is invasion?" Ethan asked. "It is when one group takes control of another group by force." Ethan thought about this. "Like when Tyler took the basketball and would not give it back?" "Similar," Crix said. "But larger." "We had a class meeting about that," Ethan said. "We decided that taking things without asking is wrong. Tyler had to apologize and give the basketball back." "Your class meeting cannot stop an invasion," Crix said. "Why not?" Ethan asked. "If taking things is wrong, it does not matter how big the thing is. It is still wrong." Crix opened his mouth to argue. Then he closed it. Then he opened it again. Then he closed it again. He had no response. A girl named Mia came over. She had dark hair and dark eyes and a determined expression. "Are you still yelling?" she asked Crix. "Because yelling is against the rules. You need to use your inside voice." "I was not yelling," Crix said. "You were being loud," Mia said. "That is the same as yelling. Please be quieter. Some people are trying to finish lunch." Crix looked around the room. His warriors had all sat down now. They were at different tables, surrounded by children, eating food and looking at pictures and learning games. They looked calm. They looked peaceful. They looked like something Crix had never seen before. They looked happy. Crix did not know that his warriors could be happy. He did not know that he himself could be happy. Happiness was a weakness. Happiness made you slow. Happiness got you killed. But watching his warriors now, he was not sure anymore. They did not look weak. They looked strong in a different way. Strong enough to accept kindness. Strong enough to put down their weapons. Strong enough to let small human children teach them about sharing and feelings and inside voices. Crix sat back down in his tiny chair. Ethan sat across from him. "So," Ethan said, "tell me about your feelings." And Crix, the most feared warrior in the Vorkan Empire, began to talk. The weapons began to change hands slowly. Nobody planned it. Nobody gave orders. It just happened, like water finding its way downhill. It started with Threll. Sophie had been holding his hand for almost an hour. She had small fingers and they barely wrapped around his massive clawed thumb. But she held on tight, like he was something precious that might float away. She looked at his plasma rifle. It was a large weapon, black and silver, with a glowing blue core that hummed with deadly energy. It hung from a strap across his chest. "That looks heavy," Sophie said. "Your arm must be tired." Threll looked at the rifle. He had carried it for so long that he had forgotten it was there. It was part of him, like his armor or his eyes. "It is not heavy," he said. "Can I hold it for you?" Sophie asked. "My dad lets me hold his stuff when he is tired. I am a good helper." Threll should have said no. The weapon was dangerous. The weapon was military property. The weapon had killed hundreds of beings across dozens of worlds. But Sophie was looking at him with her big eyes, and her small hand was warm in his palm, and she just wanted to help. He took off the rifle. He handed it to her. Sophie took the weapon. It was bigger than she was. She had to use both arms to hold it. She looked at it for a moment, then turned and walked toward Mrs. Patterson. "Mrs. Patterson," she said, "can you hold this? It is too heavy for me." Mrs. Patterson looked at the plasma rifle. She looked at Threll. She looked at Sophie. Then she took the weapon and placed it on her desk, next to a stack of papers and a cup full of pencils. "Thank you, Sophie," she said. "That was very thoughtful of you." Sophie smiled and went back to Threll. She took his hand again. "There," she said. "Now your arm can rest." Threll looked at his empty hands. He felt lighter. Not just because the weapon was gone. Lighter in a different way. In a way he could not explain. Across the room, a boy named Lucas was talking to Grox. Lucas was small and thin with glasses and messy hair. He talked fast and moved his hands a lot when he spoke. "Your gun is really cool," Lucas said. "What does it do?" "It fires concentrated plasma bursts that can burn through most known materials," Grox said. "That is so cool. Can I see it? I promise I will be careful. I am very responsible. I feed my fish every day and I have never killed one." Grox hesitated. His training said no. Every rule said no. But Lucas was looking at him with such honest interest, such pure curiosity. There was no threat in his eyes. There was no fear. There was just a boy who wanted to see something cool. Grox handed over the rifle. Lucas held it carefully. He turned it over in his hands, examining every part. "Wow," he said. "This is amazing. Did you make it yourself?" "No, it was manufactured by the Vorkan Weapons Division. My uncle works at a factory too. He makes car parts." Lucas looked up at Grox. "Do you want it back?" Grox thought about it. He had carried a weapon every day since he was old enough to walk. He had never been without one. A warrior without a weapon was not a warrior at all. But sitting here, surrounded by children and pictures and juice boxes, he did not feel like a warrior. He felt like something else, something he did not have a name for. "You can give it to the teacher," Grox said. Lucas nodded seriously, like this was a very important task. He walked to Mrs. Patterson and placed the rifle on her desk next to the first one. "Grox said I could give this to you," he said. "Please do not shoot anyone with it." Mrs. Patterson smiled. "I promise," she said. One by one, the other warriors lost their weapons the same way. A girl named Katie asked if she could hold the shiny thing on Vex's belt. Vex realized she meant his plasma pistol. He gave it to her without thinking. Katie said it was too heavy and gave it to Mrs. Patterson. A boy named Marcus asked Bren about his grenade launcher. Bren explained how it worked. Marcus said it sounded dangerous and someone could get hurt. Bren agreed and gave it to Mrs. Patterson for safekeeping. Twin brothers named Jake and Josh played a game with the youngest warrior, Korth. They took turns hiding his weapons and making him find them. After the third round, Korth could not remember where the weapons were hidden. The twins could not remember either. They all agreed to ask Mrs. Patterson to hold them so they would not get lost. Within an hour, Mrs. Patterson's desk looked like an armory. 6 plasma rifles, 6 plasma pistols, 3 grenade launchers, multiple knives, various explosive devices, all neatly arranged next to her stapler and her coffee mug. The children went back to their games and conversations. The warriors sat at their tiny tables, looking at their empty hands, feeling strange and light and confused. Only Crick still had a weapon. His command sidearm was holstered at his hip. It was smaller than a rifle, but still deadly. It was the symbol of his rank. A commander never surrendered his weapon. He watched his warriors. None of them seemed upset about losing their guns. They seemed relaxed. They seemed at peace. Grox was laughing at something a child had said. Threll was learning to play a clapping game. Vex had a small girl on his knee and was bouncing her up and down while she giggled. These were not the warriors Crix had trained. These were not the soldiers who had conquered 17 star systems. These were different creatures entirely. The children had changed them, somehow, without violence or force. A small boy approached Crix. He was shorter than the others, with dark hair that fell over his eyes. He walked slowly, like he was not sure if he should come closer. His name was Noah, and the other children said he was shy. Noah stopped in front of Crix. He did not speak for a long moment. He just stood there, looking at his shoes. Then he held out his hand. In it was a sandwich wrapped in plastic. The bread was slightly crushed. There was a piece of tape holding the wrapper closed with the name Noah written on it in marker. "My mom made extra," Noah said quietly. "She always says there is enough for everyone, even people we have not met yet." Crix looked at the sandwich. It was similar to the one Danny had offered earlier. Simple food, human food, food made by a mother for her child. "Why?" Crix asked. Noah looked up. His eyes were big and serious. "Why what? Why share your food with me? I am your enemy. I came here to hurt you. Why do you offer me kindness?" Noah thought about this for a long time. He was a quiet boy, and he liked to think before he spoke. "I do not think you are my enemy," he said finally. "Enemies are mean. You are not mean. You are just lost." "Lost?" "Yes, lost. Like when you cannot find your mom at the store and you get scared and do bad things because you do not know what else to do." Noah held the sandwich a little higher. "When I get lost, I find someone nice and ask for help. Maybe you are lost too. Maybe you need someone nice." Crix stared at the boy. He thought about all the worlds he had conquered. He thought about all the beings he had killed. He thought about the emptiness inside him that had been there for as long as he could remember. Maybe the boy was right. Maybe he was lost. Maybe he had been lost his entire life and he had never known it because he had never found anyone nice enough to show him the way home. Crix reached out and took the sandwich. Then he unholstered his command sidearm and held it out to Noah. "Can you give this to your teacher?" he asked. "I do not want to carry it anymore." Noah smiled. It was a small smile, shy and gentle, but it made his whole face light up. "Okay," he said. "Thanks for not being mean." He took the weapon carefully and walked it over to Mrs. Patterson. She added it to the pile without comment. Crix sat alone at the small table, holding a sandwich, completely unarmed for the first time in 40 years. He had never felt so light in his entire life. The Vorkan fleet commanders waited for communication from the Fang division. They waited 1 hour, then 2, then 3. No signal came. Admiral Vrath stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the blue planet below. Earth hung in space like a marble, swirled with white clouds and blue oceans. It looked peaceful. It looked harmless. But the silence from his death squad worried him. The Fang division had never failed to report. They had never missed a deadline. Commander Crix was the most reliable warrior in the fleet. If he was silent, something had gone very wrong. Admiral Vrath ordered a second death squad to investigate. 6 more warriors dropped through the atmosphere in a small shuttle. They landed next to the first dropship, which still sat in the middle of the destroyed playground. The warriors entered the building with weapons ready. They found the cafeteria. They stopped. Commander Crix was sitting on the floor, surrounded by children. He was holding a book with pictures in it. A small girl sat in his lap, pointing at the pictures and explaining each one. Crix was listening with an expression the warriors had never seen on his face before. He was smiling. The other members of the Fang division were scattered around the room. One was building a tower out of small blocks with 3 children. Another was letting a boy braid his helmet straps. A third was lying on the floor while 2 girls pretended to give him a medical checkup with plastic tools. The teacher, Mrs. Patterson, saw the new warriors and walked toward them. "Welcome to Jefferson Elementary," she said. "Lunch is over, but we have snacks. Do you like crackers?" The second death squad looked at her. They looked at the first death squad. They looked at the children. They did not know what to do. A boy walked up to the lead warrior. "Hi," he said. "My name is Danny. Do you want to play? We are learning about sharing today." Within 90 minutes, the second death squad had put down their weapons and joined the others on the floor. Admiral Vrath sent a third squad, then a fourth, then a fifth. None of them came back. Finally, Admiral Vrath went himself. He took 50 warriors and marched into the school, ready for anything, ready for traps, ready for weapons, ready for the most dangerous threat the Vorkan had ever faced. He found the most dangerous threat coloring a picture of a sun with a yellow crayon. Admiral Vrath stood in the cafeteria doorway. surrounded by his soldiers, looking at the chaos before him. Dozens of elite Vorkan warriors sat at tiny tables and lay on thin mats. They were napping. They were playing. They were learning songs with hand motions. They had been completely and utterly defeated by third graders. Mrs. Patterson approached the Admiral. She looked tired, but not unhappy. "I assume you're in charge?" she said. "I am Admiral Vrath. I command this invasion fleet." "Good. Then you can help me contact someone important." She crossed her arms. "Your soldiers have been here for 6 hours. School ended 3 hours ago. I have 40 children whose parents are waiting for them. I need you to tell your ships to stop blocking the parking lot." Admiral Vrath had burned civilizations. He had ended species. He had made worlds tremble at the sound of his name. He moved his ships so the parents could pick up their children. The next few days were confusing for everyone. The Vorkan did not know how to process what had happened. They had conquered 17 star systems with ease. They had never lost a battle. They had never lost a soldier. Now they had lost an entire invasion force to juice boxes and kindness. Commander Crix requested a meeting with Admiral Vrath. The two sat in a small room on the flagship, alone for the first time since the incident. "What happened down there?" Admiral Vrath asked. "How did they defeat you?" Crix thought about the question. He had been thinking about it for days. He still did not have a complete answer. "They did not defeat us," he said finally. "They changed us." "Changed you how?" "I have killed thousands of beings across many worlds. I have never felt anything about it. No joy, no guilt, nothing." Crix paused. "A 7-year-old girl held my hand and told me I looked tired. She said it was okay to rest. She meant it. There was no trick, no trap. She just wanted to help." Admiral Vrath leaned back. "And this changed you?" "Have you ever been helped, Admiral? Has anyone ever done something kind for you with no expectation of reward?" Admiral Vrath thought about his life. He thought about his training. He thought about the cold efficiency of Vorkan society, where everything was measured and calculated and nobody did anything without purpose. "No," he said. "I do not think so. Neither had I, neither had any of us." Crix looked at his hands. "We were taught that kindness is weakness. We were taught that compassion is a flaw. But watching those children, I learned something different." "What?" "Kindness is not weakness. Kindness is strength. It takes no strength to kill. Any fool can destroy. But to create, to help, to give without expecting return, that requires real power. Those children had power we did not understand. Power we had no defense against." Admiral Vrath was quiet for a long time. "What do you recommend?" he asked finally. "Cancel the invasion," Crix said. "Leave Earth alone. Take what we learned back to our people. Teach them that there are other ways to live." "The High Command will not accept this." "Then tell them the truth. Tell them that Earth has a weapon more powerful than anything in our arsenal. A weapon that can turn warriors into friends and conquerors into guests." Crix smiled. It was still strange to feel his face make that shape. "Tell them the humans gave us sandwiches and taught us to share." The invasion was cancelled 3 days later. The news spread through the Empire and beyond. The humans had stopped the Vorkan without firing a shot. They had done it with food and games and kindness. Other species began to pay attention. The 17 conquered systems began to whisper about rebellion. If the Vorkan could be stopped by children, maybe they could be stopped by adults too. The galaxy began to change. On Earth, life went on as normal. The students at Jefferson Elementary became briefly famous. News crews came, politicians visited. Everyone wanted to meet the children who had defeated an alien invasion. The children did not understand what the fuss was about. They had just done what Mrs. Patterson always taught them. Be kind to others. Share what you have. Use your words instead of your fists. Sophie Chen kept her promise. She made Threll a stuffed rabbit out of purple fabric with button eyes. She gave it to him before the Vorkan left Earth. Threll kept it for the rest of his life. When other warriors asked about it, he told them the story. Most of them laughed at first. Then they listened. Then they asked where they could get one. Commander Crix requested permission to stay on Earth. The request was unusual, but Admiral Vrath approved it. Crix became the first Vorcan to live among humans. He got a job at Jefferson Elementary. He was too big to fit through most doors and too scary-looking for some children. But he could reach high shelves. He could open tight jars. He could give the best piggyback rides anyone had ever seen. Mrs. Patterson retired at the end of the year. Before she left, she gave Crix her classroom. "You were my best student," she told him. "You learned more in one afternoon than most people learn in a lifetime." Years later, a human reporter came to interview Crix. The reporter wanted to know about the invasion. She wanted to know how humanity had won. Crix thought about the question carefully. He thought about his old life, the killing and the conquest. He thought about his new life, the teaching and the learning. He thought about Sophie and her rabbit, about Danny and his sandwiches, about Noah and his quiet kindness. "You did not win because you were strong," he said finally. "You won because you were kind. We had conquered entire star systems. We had ended civilizations. We had never been stopped by anything. But your children offered us lunch. They asked if we were tired. They held our hands and told us it was okay." He paused, looking out the window at the playground where it had all begun. "We came to Earth as conquerors. Your children treated us as guests, and in doing so, they taught us the most important lesson in the universe." He turned back to the reporter. "Everyone, even the monsters, just want someone to care about them. Everyone, even the killers, can learn to be kind. All they need is someone to show them how." The reporter wrote down his words. They would be published across 100 worlds. And somewhere in the stars, on ships and stations and planets, far from Earth, other species read them and began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was a better way to live. The invasion of Earth had failed. But the invasion of kindness had only just begun.